you yourself have described Donald Trump as an embarrassment. Watching those pictures of his latest Chief of Staff, General John Kelly, he looked like he wanted the ground to swallow him up whilst his boss was doing what he does in his own inimitable way. Would you agree?
Yes. In a word, yes. And I want to say that obviously I considered him an embarrassment before this moment. The difference now, however, is I think many more Americans, including some who voted for him, now share the same sentiment. This has been a really unfortunate last few days for America, but I have to say that I see a bit of a silver lining, as odd as that may sound, as both an American, an African-American, and someone who grew up in the South, in the southern states where, you know, in the South is where some of this controversy has been taking place, in that I have been so comforted by seeing how many Americans of different races, different political parties, including people who actually supported Donald Trump for president, who have actually come forward to denounce the racism that we saw on display, to denounce the violence perpetrated by some of these racists on display, and to denounce his behavior. So I actually take comfort that we've gotten to see some of the very best of America in the last 24 hours, even if it didn't come from our president. But what's interesting is this time he's not just being hounded from people who disagree with him politically. It's from people who disagree with him from a moral and ethical place of decency. And again, I think that's what I take great comfort in, that there are people who I may not agree with on various issues who've all said that as Americans and as good people, the right thing to do is to disagree with Nazis, supporters of the Klan, and people who want to march for hate. And I have to tell you that it was really, like I said, inspiring to me to see people denounce him. Do you know who didn't denounce him, though, after his latest statement today, or I guess yesterday American time? Was David Duke, who's a very famous former member of the Ku Klux Klan. He celebrated the president's reversal of turning around and saying, I'm not just going to blame one side, I'm going to blame all sides. He was celebrated by the Klansman David Duke.
I think the nub of this is that it feels to many, many people, even this side of the pond, if you like, that Donald Trump is saying one thing with his emotion, partly fueled by what he feels are people who support him in political quarters that might be unsavoury, and another thing when told to do the right thing by a press spokesman. You know, it is worrying, isn't it, when the leader or the former leader of the Ku Klux Klan is praising his stance on something this sensitive?
Well, frankly, I don't care what the former leader of the Ku Klux Klan would say regarding leadership. I don't give him credit. I don't agree with anything he says or stands for. What I do care about, though, is our president, what he did say, which started on Saturday, saying that he condemned the hate. He condemned the groups that were there. He condemned everything that was about that day and the violence that ensued. Where the criticism is coming is that he did the responsible thing and did not list all of the groups because the information probably was not told to him. And at that time, it was responsible of him to show leadership in trying to de-escalate a very tragic, horrific, horrible mark on American history that I believe that happened on Saturday. Then later, the responsible thing a president should do, a leader should do, is once he has all of the information collected by the intelligence agencies, those that were there on the ground, including law enforcement, Monday, he specifically named those groups and condemned them.
Can I jump in? Would you mind if I jumped in, Scotty? Because I take absolutely what you said, and I quite wonder why. I've several things to say. You came quite rightly on and said what you felt about that David Duke tweet. We haven't heard that from President Trump, have we? Here's the thing that worries me. We're talking layman's terms. This guy, yes, you're right. He got all the facts and he did his second statement. The thing on this side of the Atlantic, the people, and I'm sure there are plenty of the elite in Washington waiting for him to fall on his backside, because let's be honest, he shouldn't have been there and the way he did it and all of that. He just seems to a lot of people to go off on a tangent. That press conference last night undid all the good work of the second statement. And the challenge to people like you who support Donald Trump is to answer this. Is this man... He's so instantaneous, he's so emotional, he jumps up and down. Is he essentially up to the job? This man is the leader of the free world. And over on this side of the Atlantic, I guess a lot of people keep thinking, what's he going to do next? He never seems to potentially get it right. There's no calmness. That's the point, Scotty. Is he a leader? Is he really?
Absolutely. And let me tell you why. Because Donald Trump speaks from the heart. It's the same reason why he was elected in November, is because he was honest with his emotions. People know exactly what he is thinking, whether they like it or not. They know exactly what he's thinking. He's not a typical politician. So for those to judge him by saying he should give political responses or criticizing his response because it wasn't political, that's holding him to a standard that he never asked to be held to. He's held to the standard of the American people, and those people on Main Street, maybe not the politicians, maybe not those media elitists that judge every word that he says. But what he is saying is that obviously today he had been very much struck, deeply struck by the emotion of the hatred that he saw on Saturday, and wanted to continue the conversation and go even deeper, because there was shown, and that was what was interesting, there was hate on both sides that showed up on Saturday. You do have the local ACLU in Virginia tweeting out that there were both groups, and they don't know which one hit first with clubs there in Justice Park. You do even have a local New York Times reporter who said that there were both sides that showed up there with clubs. There was hate groups on both sides, and both need to be condemned, because neither has a place in American society
Time will
today
tell.
under President Trump.
Time will undoubtedly tell. Is he a man who is going to stand up to the elite, or is he a man who's going to fall by the wayside because of his being?